We got married in like a registry office in Bangkok, but it all flowed quite well. You know, it all went pretty well for a while. For a while, the ending of it turned pretty nasty. You know, so and on the violent side of things, he rang me up and I was in my office and he said, "Look, Simon, there's an opportunity here." So I said, "Oh yeah." Before I even really thought about it, I just said, "Yeah, let's go for it." You know.
Hello there, Internet. Pete here from Thairish Times. What's the story? I hope you're keeping well. Today we have a guest. His name is Simon from Gravesend, Kent, in the southeast of England. Simon is going to tell us his whole life story, how he spent 17 years living and working in Southeast Asia. Simon has spent time in Thailand, Indonesia, and Singapore. He's going to get into all that in the video. He's going to tell us about marital problems to his Thai wife at the time. He's going to get into how he makes money in Southeast Asia. Thought that was interesting. And then he's going to tell us a funny expat story. And we're going to take up this story right at the moment where Simon is telling how he came to Thailand for the first time. And if you have an interesting story, folks, or you know someone who does, get me on ThairishTimes@gmail.com. Get me on Instagram at Thairish Times, and let's have a chat about it. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Do me a favor, hit that like button, leave me a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's do it.
Went on holiday with a few friends, 10, 15 years older than me. They were more like pub friends, you know, and they said, "You want to come to Phuket with us?" And, you know, you start researching and it all seemed really exciting and stuff like that. And I couldn't wait to go, and saved up all your money and off we went, sort of thing. So there was like 3, 4 of us went out there, and I'm not quite sure if I mentioned, but when we was out there, we was only there for like maybe 2 or 3 days, and one of them, their father had a problem, and they basically said, "Look, you know, we're actually going." One of them said, "I'm going home," and the other two said, "I'm coming with you." And then it was a bit like, what do I do? You know, I just got here. I don't want to come home. You know, so I just stayed on myself. You know, and I just explored Phuket on my own. And I just fell in love with the island in general. Not, you know, just everything about it. Everything just seemed to be fun, relaxed, enjoyed, and then I was, you know, obviously there on my own, and it's like anything, you get a little bit lonely, and you're walking around, and next thing, I was busting to go to the toilet, and there's like a soy, I can't remember the name of it, the Bangla Road, soy crocodile or soy whatever it is, walking down. I was busting to go to the toilet, so I'm trying to find a toilet, and it's not easy in them places at the best of times, you know. So anyway, come out the toilet, walking down the main bar area. Basically, a Thai girl started talking perfect English, grabbed us in and said, "Hey, come and have a drink and have a chat." Well, cut a long story short, within about a year or so, I married her.
Right, so you married her, and so what happened then? Because in the email you sent me, you went back to the UK. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, we got married as a registry office in Bangkok. Yeah. Just wanted to. I think it was more like she and her family were more putting pressure on it rather than me. I'm a very easy chap, happy go lucky, and just go with the flow. And yeah, we you know, she was about 5, I can't really remember now, 5 years younger than me, and but it all flowed quite well. You know, it all went pretty well for a while. And then yeah, so we decided to come back to UK for a little bit. I mean, pretty much sorted all the visas out, and that took time. And she came back, and basically we stayed with my parents, you know, for yeah. And then once, because you know, there were certain things on her visa that she had to go back and stuff like that, or something like that after 1 or 2 years or something. And then I was actually working for at that time came back, and I transferred to a local job, working for like a British Steel, or Chorus as it's known as, basically trading steel and selling steel over the phone, and it was absolutely boring. I couldn't. I just clock watching all the time. Couldn't wait to get away. It wasn't me, you know. It's like a job that you can do for life with your eyes closed and not really think too much. And there was no progression with it. Wasn't a very nice working office atmosphere. Everyone was against each other, you know. And I'm a type of person I like to support each other, but it just wasn't for me. And then my wife at the time said, "I really want to go back to Thailand, and you know, I miss my food, I miss my mum, I miss the usual stuff, you know." And she's also had a daughter from a Thai guy, so basically leaving her daughter was something that was playing on her mind. So, and at that time, I think I had about 25 or 30,000 pounds in the bank, and I thought to myself, what's the worst can happen? I'll only have to come back home and work here and work something out again, you know. So we booked our tickets, and we flew out, and we flew straight into Phuket. And her family, her mother was quite wealthy on the property side of things. So basically, we went straight into one of her mum's villas in Phuket, and basically decided what we're going to do with things, you know. So she's also, as I mentioned, her family's very well connected. Regards to like her auntie's married to a guy in the offshore industry, and he rang me up, and I was in my office in Chorus, and he said, "Look, Simon, there's an opportunity here for someone to be based in Singapore looking after lifeboats." so, so I said, "Oh yeah." And before I even really thought about it, I just said, "Yeah, let's go for it," you know. So I'm a bit of a chancer, a bit of, you know, taking a risk, but try to be calculated about it as well. Yeah. So he said it'd probably be a good idea if you fly into Singapore and meet the owner of the company, and just have a chat and basically have an interview, you know, sort of thing. Anyway, he linked us up with the owner of the company. He's a Scottish guy based in Aberdeen, and he flew into Singapore with his wife, who's another part of the business, and I flew in for my interview. And within about 9 or 10 days, I had a job in Singapore.
And what were you doing in Singapore? What was it? What was the job about?
So basically, I was working for a company called SCI. So it was basically an offshore training and servicing manufacturing company, supplying lifeboats, davits, winches for basically safety life supply appliances. So it was a completely brand new to me. They had lots of customers in the region, but there was no one to support it or actually manage what's going on, because they were flying guys up from UK into Asia, flying squad team to service safety equipment, but there was no one to manage it on the ground, day-to-day coordinating things. So I went into basically an operations coordinator position. So I was dealing with Scotland and dealing with the clients in Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, etc. Yeah. So when I first got to Singapore and got the job, I only really found out there was no office in place, there was no company registration, there was no work permit, blah blah blah, etc. etc. So it was pretty much, Simon, can you start the business from scratch in Asia? And I sort of like muddle your way through it and find out who to talk to and where your office is set up and stuff like that. And it grew. It grew very quickly. Probably because I was I was completely full of motivation and couldn't wait to impress people. I'm 28, 29 years old, and I begin given this golden opportunity, pocket full of pocket full of money, and off you go. So yeah, I was basically doing that for 6 years.
And Simon, were you still married at the time?
Yeah, I was with I was with my Thai wife at the time, and then we actually moved to Johor Bahru in Malaysia because I was in the midst of setting up a service centre there, simply because it's a third of the cost of Singapore, and also servicing Malaysia is huge. Yeah? So servicing certain customers there. So yeah, I was married at that time, still with my Thai wife, and then things weren't just, they just deteriorated quicker and quicker year by year. It just I just wasn't. I was more focused on me and being selfish, and my life and how I was very into my work. But I was also involved in like the client entertainment, let's call it, and taking people out and just having a good time, and pretty much neglected my wife and my personal life. You get to a stage where it just sort of like just grew apart and constantly arguing, and I thought I understood the Asian or the Thai way, but I was completely didn't understand it whatsoever. And yeah, that was like for about 5 or 6 years, and then I decided, what am I going to do now? And then I joined, as I mentioned, I joined a local Singaporean company, which it just didn't suit. I got offered a good position within a company, like development of offshore business, blah blah blah. And it was pretty much similar salaries, similar benefits and stuff like that. And so I was still based in Singapore, but I was based in Singapore office, but I was traveling backwards and forwards on the causeway. So I was going backwards and forwards to Malaysia and Singapore. And it basically just got a ball ache, and I just didn't enjoy it. I was going through the breakup and divorce, the split, etc. And then it was the ending of it turned pretty nasty, So, and on the violent side of things, not really mentally, but physical violence.
How do you mean physical violence? Was that like her attacking you or something?
Yeah. Anything would spark an argument, absolutely anything, and then she would be physically attacking me, and it was not good. It was pretty bad sometimes, and you get stuck in that rut. It's like, what do you actually do in this position? So trying to cut a long story short is that I was in Malaysia at the time, and I thought, what do I do? I'm not happy. I need to exit this very quickly, but play it cool, Simon. so one evening, or one morning, I think it was like beginning of the week, one Monday morning, I basically packed up what I could in a rucksack, threw it down at my car, and put it in the back of the boot when she wasn't looking. Grabbed what I needed. Pretty much didn't have a penny to my name because money was gone. She was basically taking cash. I was hiding money, stuff like that. And then I drove to Changi Airport in Singapore and put a key on the wheel. Rang my mate. I said, "Look, you can have the car back. The key is on the tyre, in the front right tyre. I'm going." He said, and then I had a BlackBerry then. It's going back some time, isn't it? She was, and the wife was ringing me, and she said, "I know what you're doing." I said, "Know what you're doing," and I've just basically I read the message, turned the phone off, put the phone in the airport and change the airport. Got on the plane, never looked back.
Where'd you go?
Back to home, back to UK.
Okay, but obviously you didn't stay. So what was the story? You went back to the UK. How long did you stay there for? Because you're not in the UK anymore.
No, I stayed there. The intention was basically to get my head right with things, with all that's gone on, and just get yourself together and get a new game plan. So I was just looking around I'm pretty in depth with my researching and stuff like that. I know where to look and stuff like that for jobs. And then after about 3 months, I got involved with another inspection company, and they basically had an office in Dubai, head office in Dubai. So they said, yeah, we got an opportunity in Singapore. And I thought, oh my life, I hope I don't bump into my ex-wife sometime.
And you went back to Singapore?
Yeah, I went back to Singapore and working in sales on oil field servicing equipment, and basically seeing the customers, doing the quotes, and client entertainment, etc., etc. Yeah.
Simon, when you mentioned the divorce there in the email that you sent to me, you said that you lost land in Phuket because it was in her name. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah. It's nice to say you mentioned that. So when we went back, and I decided that when I went back and I got the job in Singapore, and I decided, okay, my idea was to buy some land and build our own house there, and develop look at it as a long-term project. And this was fairly new when we went back. So I think I bought one rye in Phuket near the airport, where not many people really wanted to buy probably because of the noise. But I just saw it as an opportunity that I could basically either buy and sell it, or develop it when I want to, because there was no infrastructure there. It was just land. It was just coconut fields or whatever, And I paid 1.2 million baht then. So I just sat on it, So apparently the deeds and stuff was in her family, her name and someone else's name and someone else's name. I just let her get on with it. I wasn't prepared to go 50-50 stuff like that. So I'm easy. I just walk away from things like that. But funny enough, only about maybe a year or two ago, I get a random email from one of the neighbours who's got a house on near that plot. Said, we understand that you're the legal owner, one of the legal owners of this part of land. Can you cut down the trees? It's getting like a forest.
So it's not been developed.
So it's not been developed. It's just as it was. So I might still even be lucky and get something out of it. Never say never. Yeah.
Right. So let's move on. Right. You're in Singapore. You've been in Southeast Asia for 17 years. So you're in you at this moment in the story, you're in Singapore, but you're not in Singapore now. You're in Indonesia, right? Jakarta.
Yeah.
So what was that?
Yeah.
How did you move? And because you seem to have, you've been all over Southeast Asia. So tell us, how did you end up getting over there, and what are you doing over there now?
So been working in Singapore, and then I moved to Dubai for a short period of time, and then we was even doing some business in Iran, like an island off of Iran, for a while, and then because of the oil industry took a real bad turn in 2015, 2016. Basically, I got asked by my old company my first company, my Scottish MD. He asked me if I was interested in coming back to Singapore, and I jumped at the chance. So didn't really enjoy Dubai. The company I was working for then wasn't really. You could see the writings on the wall. Basically, I came back to Singapore, and then I helped a company go through like a merger with a public company. And then it all went very nationalised in Singapore, and they was trying to push the expats out. And then in that time, I was setting up our own company with regards to inspection, repair, maintenance, but on a different service with more focused on derrick structures and drilling on the drilling side of things. For me and an ex work partner, he was my ex-boss, and a local Indonesian lady, we set up Global One, IRM, which is headquarters in Singapore. Set up in 2016, early 2016, and been going ever since. So yeah, I've travelled pretty much, travelled and lived pretty much all over Asia. Simply the reason is that all the projects that happen are pretty much in strategic ports and strategic shipyards and stuff like that. All over Indonesia and Thailand. Done business in Lamshabang, up north, where they do a lot of, believe it or not, there's a lot of land rigs drilling for geothermal gas, stuff like that. So basically, we do like we service certain rigs, you know.
Simon, how realistic is it for foreigners to go over there and do what you've done? Because you always hear a lot when you're living in Thailand and Southeast Asia, you meet a lot of people that say, "Oh, I work in oil and gas." A lot of it can be BS. People just create stories. So I've always been curious, like, how easy is it, and what's the money like?
Yeah, the money going back maybe 2007 to 2015 was boom money. Yeah, it's big money. You're talking, some guys were getting like 250,000 US dollars a year, maybe. Some guys were getting 20 or 30,000 US dollars per month. It all varied on what discipline, what job you actually did. But for a sales type of guy, like myself at the time, I was clearing £125,000 a year. Clearing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so
especially for living in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, it was, plus the way I was doing it, which made a lot of sense, was Singapore is so expensive to live in. So if you're going to, I was living in Malaysia, I was living at a third of the cost of Singapore money, you know. So it was good stuff. But realistically, to get a job here isn't as difficult as you think. It all depends on what I said before, the discipline, what you want, the type of job that you're doing. I mean, you go into Pattaya or Rayong, somewhere like that, Bangkok even, you'll find lots of expats doing some sort of oil and gas service work. I.e., probably 9 times out of 10, they're probably doing like a rope access, stuff like that, where a lot of independent companies, a bit like our company, we employ local expats in that country rather than flying them over from UK or Europe or whatever, you know.
And if you're employing local expats in that country, then are you paying kind of the salary of the country, or are you paying like an expat salary?
You're paying at the moment. You're paying probably double what you'll pay the locals at least.
Okay.
But there's reasons. There's reasons to still keep that in line, because Asia's still going through a lot of transitions, and with the oil and gas industry, it took a downturn, and the locals, took a different avenue as well, you know. So there's a lack of expertise still in this region. I would say all over the region.
You've spent 17 years in Southeast Asia. What would you say are the pros and cons of living abroad?
Pros is definitely for me the atmosphere in general, the weather. People were happier. Local people were happier. It's just chalk and cheese compared to going back to the UK when I was there for a little while, a couple of years ago for a visit. The food, I love the food over in Asia, all over Asia, and just the general feeling of not being judged or trapped by anything or anyone. It's like, I think you'll know as well, once you get that Asian sort of like bug, you just can't get it out of your mind, you know. Just the pleasure of, you know, living and earning a good living over here, and everything in the mix, why would you? How can you look at the negatives? You know. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but you know, you go over the cons. You know, I hate it. I don't like to keep looking at the negatives of anything. But I'll say the cons is that there's always, and there always will be language barrier wherever you go, regardless if you can speak some Thai or some Bahasa or some Malay. You'll never really understand the locals on what they really need, what they really want, which can be frustrating, especially within business and work. It's not all that straightforward, you know, country to country.
In the email that you sent to me, what I found surprising was the fact that you said you do plan to retire back, or you're thinking about retiring back to the UK when you get 65 plus, which is strange because I would have thought you retired in Thailand or something like that. So why are you kind of thinking of maybe going back to the UK, especially in your later years, when many people would say that's the time to be living in Asia when you're retired?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. But I think the way I've planned it and the way I've looked at it is that I've got an exit plan. I've got a plan to get out of Asia when I'm fully financial stable. When I've sold certain percentages of our companies within Asia. So the way we put it down to ourselves and to other people is that make your money in Asia and just seriously make your money in Asia and just relax and enjoy back to your home country where, as I say, health is a big thing for me, and NHS has supported me on operations before and previous health problems. I feel more comfortable in general to be at my home. I'm not necessarily saying that the healthcare and the system is bad over anywhere in Asia. It's just that that's my preference at the end of the day. So yeah, the idea is to eventually come back to Asia and to come back to UK, Isle of Wight preferably.
Why the Isle of Wight?
Just got some really good fond memories of the place, and I think it brings back some good things as well. But we've been working in the marine shipping and stuff like that, and some good memories. Even summer's nights, chilly summer nights, sitting there having a beer. Just you can see like Portsmouth and Southampton, and it was almost like you're on holiday anyway, you know.
After all your years in Southeast Asia, you must have had some kind of funny, interesting incidents, events, or anything like that. You know, everyone has them after living that. Like, you're gonna have them. Do you have any funny stories, interesting stories, and you want to share?
You've got to be a bit careful here, but anyway, I spent a lot of my time on my off time. When I was in Singapore, there's a famous place there, which probably a lot of the viewers know, is Orchard Towers. So it's like the Nana Plaza of Singapore. And we just there's a country bar, was a country bar there, and Western country bar, and we just all the boys used to get pissed up, and I'll stand on the balcony and start screaming at people and mucking around. But it was I'll never forget it. But there was like they call it the five floors of whores. So basically, you get the Filipinos downstairs, then you get the Malay, then you get the Vietnamese, and then you get the Chinese, and then you go up to the top and you get the Russians, you know. So it was a bit like, what do you want? What do you want tonight? And we used to take a lot of customers there and just debauchery and get carried away with stuff. But yeah, I remember when I just pretty much moved into Singapore, and I just went to Orchard Towers on my own for a night, and it was just basically someone just set us up with as usual, with like a lady boy, and wasn't expecting it to be in Singapore, and then yeah, just go with the flow. Yeah.
What do you mean go with the flow there, Simon?
Well, just I didn't really notice until I got him home.
Oh my! And what happened then?
Just like I have to make your excuses and say like, yeah, enough's enough. See you later. pay pay him and see you later. So yeah, that was my first. I wasn't really thinking at the time, and like I wasn't thinking that you can get lady boys also in Singapore. It was just I didn't know that. Just get carried away with the moment, didn't you?
And what did your mates say? Were they laughing at you?
No, it was like it's just a common thing. Like they always said, hey, what your first bar you need to go in is such and such bar. I can't really remember the name of it. It's changed so much time. You need to go in this bar, and I thought it's really good. That's the place where you need to start off. Then you need to move on. But I went straight to the bar, and yeah, I took him home, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah.
So, listen, what about like when you mentioned like business and like taking customers there, or people you're doing business with to these type of places? I remember like there was a Thai guy that I met in Bangkok, and he worked for like a very international company. I'm not going to name the company, but he was just employed. He was like employed as an entertainer, so he would take the Japanese businessmen and take them to these places, these establishments, and that's what his job was. And he was just there to entertain them, and like, so I was just shocked when I heard that. I was like, "Wow, this is this guy's job. That's what he does for a living." And then I found out after that it's pretty common with Japanese business
Oh,
deals in Asia, in Thailand. Is that the same? Have you
oh,
experienced the same kind of thing?
yeah, 100%, 110%. I mean, when I was working for the CI, my first company, my boss gave us a basically black MX credit card and said, make sure you use that wisely. So I didn't really understand what he was sort of understood, but me being me, I was just being careful and not getting carried away with the moment. And then I used to take a lot of oil and gas drilling OIMs, and rig managers are out for a few beers and stuff like that. But and the limit was about £10,000, so about 20,000, 18, 20,000 Sing dollars. And then the bill used to go straight to my office back in Aberdeen, and they used to pay it, and off you go again, sort of thing. But I never rinsed it really. And then my boss came over and he said to me, Simon, you're not doing enough entertainment. It's like you only did like £2,000-3,000 last month. Like, can you take people out, please, or get someone else to take people out? I was like, really? You want me to basically paying you to take people out to go on the piss to get more business? And that's the way a lot of it did work. Not necessarily nowadays. All the anti-corruption stuff like that. It's more. It more goes on so with local Chinese, Japanese, and Indonesian places where they cover it up a little bit differently. But yeah, we basically got we had a salary, a bonus, company car, housing, and the Amex card. So it was a recipe for disaster.
So, Simon, are
Basically.
you married now, or are you single, or do you have any kids or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm with an Indonesian partner, which over here in Jakarta makes things a lot easier. We're the same age. I'm 45 and she's 10 days younger than me. So yeah, it's makes a lot of things, makes life easier in general, and something that you think, oh, a lot of the expats, a lot of the guys go for the younger women, 20 years younger, but there's a lot to me, there's a lot to be said for that. If you've got someone on same age, same wavelength, you can get on as best friends and partners at the same time. It goes a long way with me. So yeah, there's very good points in what's happening now, and over the years, I have become more personal and more mindful with relationships and stuff like that.
So, Simon, any regrets, right, of all the years you spent in Southeast Asia? Anything, if you could go back and change, what would you change? Anything you do differently?
Yeah, the only thing I would do differently is I would have bought property every year. I would have bought a condo or some sort of land or something like that every single year, and you'd build up that portfolio, and probably by now you could have just lived off of the income from that some sort of way. I would invest in more money. I would heavily invest in more money in Asia in general, and that secures you. But now I'm playing catch up in earning the more money to take back to the UK.
Man, we could go on forever here. I've got loads more questions. Perhaps down the line we could do a part two. We could focus on maybe one country or see how it goes. But I really enjoyed talking to you, man. Like, you've got a great story. It was great to get into someone who's lived all over Southeast Asia, so we get that kind of overview of different countries.
No worries, eh?
All right, take it easy, Simon. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Bye, bye, bye.